Nobody in the world is happy, even those men with billions of pounds, slaves, mansions and rule of entire countries are still not in peace, in happiness or satisfied. They still want more money, power, or control. So, how can one find true happiness? First of all, one has to know what it is you are looking for. If you do not know what you are looking for, then how can you possibly find it? In life, everyone ceaselessly acts pursuing various goals. In and through all such pursuits, one is ultimately seeking nothing but happiness. If a man's goal was to own a new Ferrari car, then when he has achieved his goal, he is then worried about someone coming along and stealing it. So this begs the question, are we clear about what happiness is, where to seek it and how to achieve it? Real happiness is balanced state of mind, when thoughts are at rest. It is a state of cessation of agitations, which are caused by unfulfilled desires of the mind. Desire is the thick stream of indiscriminate thought flow within us, drawn towards the world of objects and beings, stimulated by our senses. We entertain desires within to fill the void or overcome the sense of unfulfillment we feel within. To quieten these agitations caused by unfulfilled desires, we go through a variety of experiences at the physical, mental and intellectual levels of our personality. We contact objects, beings, emotions and thoughts of the world and try to find fulfillment in them. For example, a child with toys, youth with wealth, men and women, the elderly in a newspaper and old friends. If our desires are fulfilled, we are happy, and if not, we are in sorrow. But man has to face two tragedies in life, one when his desire is fulfilled and the other when it is not. In both cases he ultimately faces mental agitations, in one case it's early and in the other it's later on. The world is in a constant flux of change, which makes the experiences of this world changing, passing and fleeting. The happiness derived from the world of objects, emotions and thoughts is thus also passing in nature. For example, joy derived from an ice cream lasts only for a while. An old man reads a book or newspaper, which absorbs him for a few hours only. So worldly happiness is not permanent, it is fleeting, it is constantly changing. Therefore, lacking the knowledge of true happiness and its source, one focuses on the world and objects within it to provide us with true happiness. But that results in experiencing instant joys followed by emptiness, sorrow and suffering. For example, you have a thought of buying a new house and you create an idea that when you purchase this house you will be happy. True, you will be happy temporarily providing you manage to purchase the new house and it turns out to be all you expected. But, if you do not manage to purchase that new house, then you will suffer. People do not go after money, people, houses, etc. These are just ideas and concepts. It's the ideas behind the things that drive a person. We project what it's going to be like, but it never is. A young man plucked a beautiful rose to enjoy its fragrance. When he brought the rose in contact with his nose to enjoy its fragrance, a bee inside the rose suddenly stung him on the tip of his nose. The man cried in pain and the rose fell from his hand. In reality, there is not a rose of sensual pleasure that does not have the bee of injury concealed in it. Indiscriminate pursuit of pleasure objects invariably comes up against the law of neutralization. It is the state where any further contact with the objects gives no more happiness, whereas its absence creates sorrow. A person in the midst of riches and plenty may remain dull and bored, yet the absence of these would generate sorrow. A regular alcoholic in contact with alcohol gets no pleasure, but abstinence from alcohol brings him suffering. True happiness, we should realize, does not belong to the realm of the physical, emotional or intellectual levels of our personality. It belongs to our true nature. Beyond the levels of our body, mind and intellect lies our real self, our supreme nature, the source of infinite happiness, the being within us. We people don't want suffering, we want happiness. But in fact, happiness is just a refined form of suffering. Suffering itself is the coarse form. You can compare them to a snake. The head of the snake is unhappiness, the tail of the snake is happiness. The head of the snake is really dangerous, it has the poisonous fangs. If you touch it, the snake will bite straight away. But never mind the head, even if you go and hold onto the tail, it will turn around and bite you just the same, because both the head and the tail belong to the one snake. In the same way, both happiness and unhappiness, or pleasure and sadness, arise from the same parent, namely, wanting. So when we are happy, the mind isn't peaceful. It really isn't. For instance, when we get the things we like, such as wealth, prestige, praise or happiness, we become pleased as a result. But the mind still harbors some uneasiness because we're afraid of losing it. That very fear isn't a peaceful state. Later on we may actually lose that thing and then we really suffer. One is always promised happiness in the future, after passing exams, after getting a job, after getting a house, after paying off the mortgage, after getting the kids married off, after I die. But happiness can be achieved right now, otherwise it never will. One is looking for happiness here and there but failing. This is akin to a man looking for fire to cook his meal using a candle. But if he really knew what he was looking for, then he would know he has fire in his hand, the candle, which he can use to start the fire. Look at your parents and learn from their mistakes. Look at their life, how they have worked hard and achieved little. In some cases parents may have earned loads of money and wealth, but are they truly happy? Reflect on this and change your way. Is one just wasting time collecting wealth which does not make one truly happy, and ultimately this wealth cannot be carried with one after death? One studies hard, gets a good job, earns plenty of money, but still is not truly happy. When we see how our own lives are pervaded by suffering, and how this suffering derives from desire and craving, the mind inclines to renunciation, to abandoning craving and the objects to which it binds us. Then, when we apply the truths in an analogous way to other living beings, the contemplation nurtures the growth of goodwill and harmlessness. We see that, like ourselves, all other living beings want to be happy, and again that like ourselves they are subject to suffering. The consideration that all beings seek happiness causes thoughts of goodwill to arise, the loving wish that they be well, happy, and peaceful. The consideration that beings are exposed to suffering causes thoughts of harmlessness to arise, the compassionate wish that they be free from suffering. The way of the world is the way of desire, and the thoughtful people who follow this way flow with the current of desire, seeking happiness by pursuing the objects in which they imagine they will find fulfillment. Desire and craving is to be abandoned not because it is morally evil but because it is a root of suffering. But how should one eliminate desire and craving? Should we throw away all our belongings and live a possession-less life? No, if one wants to be free from attachment, then it would not be very skillful to just keeping away from objects or people. Just keeping away from people and objects will not solve the problem at all. If anything, it will make the problem worse. One needs to work from the heart outward as opposed to out to inward. One must remember, if something satisfies one in one time may not do the same at another time. In other words, if one was to enjoy a chocolate cake today, finding it very delicious, may not find the same fulfillment and gratification from eating the same chocolate cake tomorrow. The mind changes over time. One cannot possess pain or pleasure as it constantly changes. Even the rich only get pleasure for a while from their wealth, but after a while they experience neutralization. After this pleasure, pain will come. If one is attached to pleasure, then one will not be able to let go of pain. Pleasure and pain go hand in hand, like the breath we breathe. If it goes in, it must also come out. Thus, if one is feeling pain in the leg, if you are successful at ignoring the pain, then you will also ignore pleasure too. In order to withstand the pain, you must just let it be there, then it will go, so just let go. Why is Friday a happy day for most working people? This is because Monday was hard work and therefore it's only then we appreciate the pleasure of the weekend approaching. After being sick, when we are better we really feel better. Pain and pleasure are inseparable, there is nothing that is pleasurable without pain. But the only reason one is happy is because before that point of happiness one was sad. Happiness is a moment contained within 2 moments of sadness. Sadness is a state contained between 2 moments of happiness. For example, one might be walking down the street in a low mood and suddenly find £10 on the street that makes them happy. After spending the £10 one again goes back to the low mood. If you do not feel free and do not feel happy, then the anger is growing within and therefore the problem is with you. It is easy to blame someone else for your problems. You might think if that guy did not do this then that would not have happened. What happened has happened, it is fact and cannot be changed. What can be changed is your reaction to what happened. Think of an incident which made you really upset, go on, do it now. Now think about how you reacted to this incident. Think now that just before you got upset if you had won the lottery at that moment. Would you have really reacted in the same way? If you won the lottery and were happy, then you will not get angry with the next person who comes and swears at you, as you will be at such ease. You will be so joyful that you cannot possibly get angry. Happiness is always in the future. Some people think once I get my degree then I will be happy. When they get their degree then they say when I get a job then I will be happy. After the job it's when I get a partner, followed by when I get a house. Definitely once I pay off the mortgage. However, before then comes the kids and then you need a bigger house, or you think well when my kids are married off then I will be happy. Okay, when I retire then I will be happy. Finally you think once I die then I will be happy. Happiness is always in the future. One can only really be happy when you stop looking for something in the future. In order to be notified of my next video, remember to hit the subscribe button.